You're listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, where you get valuable information you just can't find anywhere else. To thrive in today's trying times, you need the Financial Survival Network, now more than ever. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and get your free newsletter and gift. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.
Welcome. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz. It's 9/24/21. Well, hey, lots of evil doings in Washington as always, but they're going to build back better. I can't wait to see this. The tax act that they're working on. Well, my feeling is there's a good chance they'll wind up doing nada for the year. That's probably their best strategy, is just to leave things alone. But when was the last time a politician ever left something alone? Well, right now we have Wayne Titus with us. And Wayne had his own firm recently acquired by Savant Wealth Management, like Idiot Savant, but Savant. And Wayne, it's great to have you back on the show. So should we be worried about these tax changes that they've got in the works for us?
Yeah, good morning, Kerry. Thanks for having me. It's an interesting thing because the Tax Reform Act was passed back in 2017, and it put into place a number of different changes in tax brackets. And in the Tax Reform Act in 2017 basically said if nothing is done by Congress, those brackets revert back to what they were previously in 2017. So if Congress does nothing, the brackets are actually going to go back to what they were in 2017. If they put into place proposed legislation, most changes are not going to impact taxpayers unless they earn $400,000 and above. And so for business owners, that's of significant concern. But for most everybody else in the country, probably not as significant.
Mm-hmm. All right. So let's talk about this. In certain jurisdictions like New York City and California, you'll be paying over 60% of your income in taxes. And we had the Boston Tea Party. They were upset over a little 10% tax on tea. What has happened to the country here?
Yeah, well, I think what everybody needs to understand when they hear those numbers is, 60% is certainly significant. And so if you are a taxpayer that earns more than $400,000, you'd be in the 39.6% tax bracket. Then, of course, you have your state tax on top of that, and maybe local taxes on top of that. But we are our tax rate structure is progressive. So it means on the first $9,000, those same taxpayers are only paying 10%, and dollars in the next bracket, they're paying 12%, then 22%, 24%, 32%. And then finally, if you're earning over $400,000, it's 39.6 on those dollars above that bracket. So the number sounds very large, but the actual blended rate of tax is significantly less than 60%. I'm not saying it's not a large number. Certainly you don't want to pay more taxes than you're obligated to pay, and everyone would prefer to pay zero. But the bottom line is we are in a progressive tax structure, and the tax changes are going to impact those at the very highest, in the very highest brackets.
And I know, Wayne, that there's not enough of these rich people, and now a rich person makes $400,000 a year, which really in New York City and in California, parts of California, makes you just at the bottom of the upper middle class. And, the reason for them increasing the taxes is specious. Why don't they just keep on printing up money? They seem to be really good at that. Nobody seems to care about it, really. If I was in New York, which I once was, I'd be looking at a place like Florida where I don't pay any income tax, state income tax, that is. We saw once they eliminated the state and local tax deduction, a virtual exodus started from these high tax states. This is only going to up the ante, don't you think?
Yeah, well, this latest tax bill that came out from the House Ways and Means Committee is the Building Back Better Act. It's 881 pages, as a lot of legislation is very complex, and there's a lot of information in there. The one thing that the House indicated is the final version likely would repeal any limitation on state and local tax. That's going to be introduced as an amendment, but who knows where that's going to land, right? So if you are in one of those, I live in Michigan, and our taxes in Michigan are particularly high from a real estate tax perspective. And when you start to add in state and local tax deductions plus our real estate, it's not just states like California and New York that are impacted, but there's actually many other states throughout the country where that limitation significantly impacts taxpayers. So I don't think the legislation is complete yet. We had the American Families Act that the Biden administration proposed. Now we have the House of Representatives and the House Ways and Means Committee providing the Build Back Better Act. Obviously, this has to go through the Senate, and the Senate, bill has to be reconciled with the House bill before it can ever go to the president for signature. So as you indicated, this is a long, drawn-out process. It may or may not get done this year, but many of the provisions were indicated that they would actually be effective beginning September 13th, 2021. So if you sold a business, as an example, after September 13th, your highest capital gain rate would go to 25% versus 20%, which is a pretty significant difference, just because you sold it after September 13th. So I'm not sure where Congress is going to land on that, or the president, but I think there's still time to get something through, but it needs to happen quickly if anything's going to go into place this year.
We'll see. We will see, but my guess is nothing is going to happen. The most powerful man in Congress right now is Joe Manchin, and he doesn't seem very favorably predisposed to any of this monkey business that they're engaging in. And we'll just have to see, because it's 50-50 in the Senate, and to pass it through reconciliation, I'm not sure that the vice president can be the tiebreaker for that, but perhaps she can. But they got to get to 50-50 first. And the Republicans seem to be holding tight together. So I guess we're going to see. But really, the tax system is totally corrupt and needs complete reform, because it's become just a give me of political free for all, and everybody's out to get what they can. So what do you do to protect yourself besides going back in time to September 12th and selling your business?
Don't just survive, thrive. The Financial Survival Network.
Silver One Resources is an exploration and development company backed by strategic investors Eric Sprott and SSR Mining. At Silver One's Candelaria Mine project in Nevada, there is already a historic resource estimated at 127 million ounces of silver, which Silver One is developing and advancing. The company's Phoenix Silver project, located within the Arizona Silver Belt, is an early-stage exploration project on which native silver vein fragments have been discovered near surface. One grab sample assayed an astounding 14,688 ounces per ton. Yes, that's right, ounces, not grams. Silver One has tremendous exploration potential, is extremely leveraged to the price of silver, and is cashed up and poised to increase shareholder value. Silver One trades in New York under the ticker SLVRF and in Toronto under the ticker SVE. To learn more, go to silverone.com. That's silverone.com.
This is the Financial Survival Network, the information you need to thrive now more than ever.
Yeah, I can't answer that question. I know, I sold my business June 30th. The Biden proposal was actually in place prior to June 30th. And they were basically saying that, it would actually go back to April. So I don't even know, having sold my business, whether or not I'm going to pay a lower amount of capital gains tax or a higher amount of capital gains tax until things are actually, finalized. We won't know. This is actually not something that's unusual when we get into how legislation is formed. We had similar things happen with a question on whether capital gains taxes were going to go up under the Obama administration. And Congress actually, after year end, so in the following year, basically said that they were not going to raise capital gains tax. They actually stayed the same. So, as a taxpayer, as a tax preparer and an advisor, in many cases when I'm working with clients, we are trying to make decisions based on legislation that's pending. And it's very difficult for us to do it if they don't give us particular dates and we don't have definitive timeframes in which that's going to happen. So as an example, under that Obama administration provision to keep capital gains rates the same, lower, we had advised clients to consider selling things before the end of the year because it seemed at that time that capital gains rates were actually going to go up. And so, we can never tell where this stuff is going to land until it's finally done. So as a professional, I just would like definitive guidance so that I can help my clients make decisions.
Yeah, that would be nice, wouldn't it? And, but obviously they're going to do whatever they do. And we're basically a sitting target. And hey, this is just part of inflation, though. They need more money to do more stuff. Everything's more expensive. So what about when you live in these high inflation areas? Because inevitably high tax states are high inflation states. What are you supposed to do here?
Yeah, that's a great question. Back in 2017, when the Tax Reform Act was passed, Congress at the time they linked inflation on the brackets and other things to what's called chained CPI for urban consumers. And so when you talk about these cities and where people live and supposedly inflation's higher in those areas than maybe elsewhere around the country, they actually linked things to chained CPI, which is typically a lower increase than regular CPI. Yeah. But it does provide the opportunity, if you're giving less of an increase, then what you're doing is you're creating a larger margin of impact. And so they're doing this in a number of areas, including Social Security. But this was something that actually occurred in a different Congress back in 2017. So, I think the politicians know what they're doing as it relates to creating these differences. I think people don't really understand the impacts of that. And the blame game doesn't help. We certainly need to, find some common ground and get taxes where they're reasonable and where they're fair. Some people would say it's never fair to tax anybody, but we do have things that we have to pay for in our budget. It's a matter of what goes into the budget and how much the budget is that matters. But that's what taxing is. It's to raise revenue for particular projects. So I don't know what the right answer is there, but certainly our legislative process is iterative. We saw the Tax Reform Act of 2017. We know it was going to revert back to what it was earlier, which was higher brackets by 2026. We didn't make that a permanent change for whatever reason, maybe because the politicians at the time knew we needed more revenue later. We've had an interim period where we've had fairly low brackets and fairly low capital gains taxes. Some of the lowest capital gains taxes really in recent history. When you look back, capital gains taxes were upwards to 90%, not very long ago. And so even though capital gains is suggested under the Build Back Better Act to go to 25%, it's still significantly lower than 90%, but it is a pretty significant increase from where it was before. So, people are weighing the pros and the cons of this. I wish I had some control over that process. You and I certainly don't. But
we don't.
Yeah.
No, we don't. Well, I guess we'll leave it to the politicians to, Wayne, you know what they say, or Mark Twain said, or maybe Will Rogers, who knows, maybe W.C. Fields said it, when no man's life, liberty, or property is safe when the legislature is in session.
The other thing that I think it might have been Will Rogers, death and taxes are certain, right? But one thing's certain. Death doesn't get worse every time Congress meets.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
So true. And we could go down that list of quips about Congress. I think Will Rogers said we had the best Congress money could buy, and I have to take issue with him there. I think we got the worst Congress money could buy. At least if we got a decent Congress money could buy, something might get done. But in any event, Wayne, people want to find out more about you, connect with you on the web. How do you do that?
Well, you can find us at savantwealth.com, or you can find me on LinkedIn, Wayne B. Titus 3.
All right, Wayne, appreciate you coming on, and thanks for the words of discouragement. And we'll talk to you again real soon. If you got a question for Wayne, just shoot me an email to kl@kerrylutz.com. We'll get you an answer. And make sure you sign up for a free newsletter, financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Thanks so much, Wayne. We'll talk to you soon.
Hey, Kerry, it was my pleasure.
Thanks for listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, your solution to today's trying times. For the latest, go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.